They told you breakfast was the most important meal of the day, but they never told you that an Indonesian grandmother had already been cooking yours for 3 hours before you woke up. They never told you that what lands on the table before 7 in the morning in a household like hers, the layers, the spice, the technique, the care, would embarrass most restaurant kitchens in the world. What she made every morning was not breakfast. It was a declaration that no one in her family would face the day without being properly fortified, and she took that declaration very, very seriously. 1. Nasi Uduk, the coconut rice that started every morning in Jakarta. Before the city woke up, the grandmother was already standing at the stove, and the first thing she did was not make coffee. It was put the rice on. Nasi Uduk is rice cooked not in water, but in coconut milk seasoned with lemongrass, pandan leaves, bay leaves, and a little salt. The coconut milk absorbs into the grains as they cook, infusing them with a subtle richness and fragrance that plain steamed rice cannot touch. The result is slightly sticky, pleasantly sweet, fragrant with pandan, and substantial enough to carry the weight of everything piled on top of it. What is piled on top is the miracle. Nasi Uduk is served as a complete breakfast with an array of accompaniments that can include fried tempeh, fried tofu, a fried or boiled egg, shredded omelet, sambal, the chili paste that is the backbone of Indonesian cooking, fried shallots, sliced cucumber, and kering tempeh, a dry fried tempeh with sweet soy sauce and dried chilies. The combination changes by household, by grandmother, by what is available, and what she considers non-negotiable. Nasi Uduk is the breakfast of Betawi culture, the indigenous people of the Jakarta region, and has been eaten in the area for centuries. Street vendors in Jakarta began selling it wrapped in banana leaves from dawn, so workers could buy breakfast on their way to the market or the docks. The banana leaf wrap kept it warm for hours and infused the rice with one more layer of fragrance. This grandmother considers the sambal the most important component. She makes a fresh batch every morning. She has never served yesterday's sambal. She considers day-old sambal an act of disrespect to the meal and to the people eating it. The fresh chilies are pounded with shrimp paste, garlic, and a little tomato until smooth, then fried in oil until fragrant, then seasoned with salt and a pinch of sugar. It takes 20 minutes. She does this every morning. She has done it every morning for decades. It was never just rice. It was a grandmother's standard for what her family deserved to begin their day with, and she set that standard very high. 2. Bubur Ayam, the rice porridge that healed everything. There is a dish for ordinary mornings, and there is a dish for the mornings when someone in the house is not well, or not warm, or not quite themselves. In Indonesia, that dish is bubur ayam, soft rice porridge, cooked long past the point where the grains hold their shape until they dissolve into a thick, silky suspension, topped with shredded poached chicken, fried shallots, sliced spring onion, crispy rice crackers called kerupuk, a drizzle of soy sauce, a thread of sesame oil, and a soft-boiled egg split to reveal a jammy center. The porridge is white and plain. Everything piled on top is complex, layered, textured, seasoned. The contrast between the blank warmth of the porridge and the bright, savory, crunchy toppings is the entire point. Bubur ayam is sold from carts across Indonesia from before dawn. The vendor carries 2 containers, porridge on one side, all the toppings in small compartments on the other, and assembles each bowl to order, asking how much chicken, how much soy sauce, how many crackers. A cart that has been in the same spot for 20 years will have regulars who do not need to be asked. The vendor already knows The rice porridge tradition in Indonesia traces back through centuries of Chinese influence, particularly from Hokkien and Cantonese immigrants who brought kanji traditions that merged with local Javanese and Sundanese flavors. The shrimp crackers are Indonesian. The sambal on the side is Indonesian. The specific combination of toppings is Indonesian. The porridge base arrived from somewhere else and became something that belongs entirely here. This grandmother makes Bubur Ayam whenever someone in her family is ill, on the first cold morning of the rainy season, on the morning after any difficult day. She makes it from scratch, not from leftover rice, but from fresh rice cooked long and slow with extra water until the grains are gone. She considers starting with leftover rice a shortcut that the dish does not deserve. The morning you need bubur ayam most is not the morning for shortcuts. It was never just porridge. It was the Indonesian grandmother's answer to whatever had gone wrong, and it worked every time. 3. Tempeh goreng, the fermented soybean cake that quietly changed the world. Tempeh was invented in Java, Indonesia, centuries ago, and the world is only now beginning to understand what that means. Tempeh is made by fermenting cooked soybeans with a mold called Rhizopus oligosporus, which binds the beans into a dense, firm cake held together by white mycelium, the same organism that makes it. The fermentation takes 24 to 48 hours. The result is a protein-dense food with a nutty, earthy, slightly mushroom-like flavor that deepens when fried, acquires a crispy crust that shatters when you bite it, and pairs with everything from rice and sambal to sweet soy sauce glazes to curries. Tempeh goreng, fried tempeh, is one of the most common components of an Indonesian breakfast. Sliced thin, marinated briefly in a little garlic and coriander and salt, then fried in palm oil until golden and crisp, served alongside rice, or eaten plain or dipped in sambal. It provides protein and texture and a flavor that is simultaneously mild enough to accompany anything and distinctive enough to be the thing you remember. Tempeh has been made in Java for at least 300 years, and food historians believe it may be significantly older. It was developed as a way to make soybeans, which were available but difficult to digest in their raw form, into something nourishing, shelf-stable, and easy to prepare. It is one of the most ingenious food preservation and fermentation technologies in history. It was invented not by a scientist, but by Javanese grandmothers, working with what they had and solving a problem with extraordinary creativity. Western health food culture discovered tempeh in the 1970s and 1980s as a meat alternative, and it has since become a global ingredient worth billions of dollars annually. In Indonesia, the grandmothers who invented it have been eating it for breakfast for centuries and would like you to know that it is best fried, not steamed, and served with sambal and rice, not in a grain bowl with tahini dressing. It was never just fried soy cake. It was one of the greatest food inventions in human history, made by Javanese grandmothers who never got credit and never needed it. 4. Soto Ayam, the chicken soup Indonesia eats for breakfast. In most of the world, chicken soup is what you eat when you are sick. In Indonesia, it is what you eat on a perfectly healthy Tuesday morning before you go to work. Soto Ayam is a clear turmeric yellow chicken broth built from a whole chicken, lemongrass, galangal, kaffir lime leaves, and a paste of turmeric, shallots, garlic, candle nuts, and white pepper, poured over glass noodles or rice noodles, shredded poached chicken, hard-boiled egg, and an array of fresh and fried garnishes. Fried shallots, sliced spring onion, tomato, bean sprouts, and a squeeze of lime. Each region of Indonesia has its own version. Soto Lamongan from East Java is richer and cloudier. Soto Betawi from Jakarta adds coconut milk. Soto Madura is darker and more intensely spiced. The broth is the grandmother's signature. The turmeric that colors the broth is not decorative. It is one of the most bioactive spices in the world, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, with a growing body of scientific research confirming what Indonesian grandmothers have known for centuries. It is good for you in the morning. Soto Ayam as a breakfast food is not a novelty. It is practical wisdom accumulated over generations of women who understood that starting the day with a warm, spiced, protein-rich broth was the best thing they could do for the people in their care. This grandmother's Soto Ayam takes 4 hours from the moment she starts to the moment it is on the table. She begins at 3 in the morning for a 7 o'clock breakfast. She has never found this unreasonable. She finds it unreasonable that anyone would serve their family something that took less. It was never just chicken soup. It was a grandmother's daily 4-hour argument that her family deserved the best she could give them, and she made that argument every single morning. 5. Jamu, the drink that is not quite breakfast and not quite medicine. Before the food, there was the drink, and in an Indonesian grandmother's house, the drink was jamu. Jamu is a traditional herbal tonic, not a single recipe, but a tradition of combining fresh turmeric, ginger, galangal, tamarind, and other roots and spices into drinks designed to support specific health outcomes. The most common morning jamu is a combination of fresh turmeric juice, ginger, tamarind, honey, and a pinch of salt and pepper. Bright orange, intensely flavored, warming, and slightly bitter in a way that wakes up the body before the first meal. Jamu has been practiced in Java for over 1,000 years. Records from the 8th century Mataram Kingdom describe herbal preparations that correspond to Jamu traditions still in use today. Jamu gendong sellers, women who carry their tonics in bottles in baskets on their backs, have walked the streets of Javanese cities for centuries, selling specific preparations for specific conditions to customers who know exactly what they need. This grandmother makes jamu every morning before anything else. Fresh turmeric root grated. Fresh ginger pounded. Tamarind dissolved in warm water. Everything strained, combined, sweetened with a little palm sugar and honey. It takes 15 minutes. She drinks hers first, then serves it to everyone in the household. She has done this every day for as long as her children can remember. In 2023, UNESCO inscribed Jamu on its list of intangible cultural heritage of humanity, formally recognizing a tradition that Indonesian grandmothers had been maintaining for over a millennium, without needing international recognition to tell them it mattered. It was never just a drink. It was a grandmother's first act of care every morning, before the rice was on, before anyone else was awake. The daily proof that she was thinking about her family's health before they had even opened their eyes. Coconut rice fragrant with pandan before the sun rises, porridge made from scratch on the mornings when someone needed it most, fried fermented soybean cake that Javanese grandmothers invented centuries before the health food industry discovered it, chicken broth that took 4 hours to make and 0 seconds to justify, a turmeric tonic drunk in the quiet before the household woke up. Indonesian breakfast food is not about speed. It is not about convenience. It is about a grandmother who made a decision every single morning that the people in her care would begin their day with something that required her full attention and several hours of her time. That decision was not taken lightly. It was made from love, from tradition, from the understanding that breakfast is not the first meal of the day. It is the foundation of the day. And foundations should not be rushed. Indonesia is the fourth most populous country on Earth, spread across 17,000 islands, with over 300 distinct ethnic groups and culinary traditions. The breakfast dishes in this video represent a fraction of what that country cooks before 7 in the morning. The full picture would take a lifetime to document. Several grandmothers are working on it right now. Tell me in the comments, had you heard of Jamu before this video? And if your grandmother had a morning ritual, a drink, a dish, something she made before anyone else was awake, I want to hear about it, because that is what this channel exists to find. Subscribe, because next time we go somewhere else, and the story is just as extraordinary.